Hello everyone, and welcome to Lancelot's Nerd Corner, where I'm proud to present another 6-scale figure review. Today we'll be taking a look at the DX19 Batman by Hot Toys from the Dark Knight Trilogy, and I'm really glad to be giving you my honest and detailed account of the figure. This DX19 Batman is actually my first DX figure from Hot Toys ever, so I want to start off with the main selling point of this figure, the head sculpts. This figure comes with head sculpts of the standard cowl, a cowl with LED eyes, and of Bruce Wayne. The regular cowl is lightweight and made of a hard plastic with a matte black paint finish. There are areas of sculpted expression, specifically around the brow and cheekbones, just like in the movie. The nose and bat ears are a bit pointy, but not as sharp as we've seen Hot Toys get with other Batman figures. One of the coolest things about this head sculpt though is the separate eyeball rolling system, which really unlocks more possibilities for poses. The eyes have tiny pegs on the inside of the cowl, and Hot Toys provides this clear plastic tool that you use to move the pegs around. It might be a bit difficult to move them to the exact position you want, but I think it's definitely worth the trouble. The LED cowl is virtually identical, but obviously with LED lights inside the eye sockets. The lights are powered by the standard alkaline cell batteries that Hot Toys typically uses, and the compartment is inside the head, which you can access by unscrewing this panel. I must apologize, however, for not being able to show you what the LED eyes look like turned on, because it's incredibly frustrating to try to get these tiny batteries inside the compartment, and this is something I find really disappointing. This figure is part of Hot Toys' DX line, the best they can possibly offer, and the fact that they're still making collectors deal with these minuscule batteries that are infamous for dying out quickly anyway is honestly surprising to me, in a bad way. Moving on though, both cowls come with 4 interchangeable faceplates in a relaxed, half open, fully open, and that iconic angry lip pout expression. You can remove them using the same plastic tool for the rolling eyes, as they're just held on by this small socket, which is another thing that I'm a little surprised about, because I feel like they could have gone the extra mile to make them magnetic. And it wouldn't be completely out of the realm of possibility for Hot Toys, considering the Arkham Batman Beyond figure has magnetic faceplates. To be fair, however, they did a great job on the faceplates, and they really captured the bottom 30% of Christian Bale's face really well, as weird as that sounds. Things like the ratio and proportion of the lips and chin, and subtle wrinkles in certain areas make them really recognizable when they're on the cowl. And each faceplate has slightly different sculpt work to capture that specific expression, such as the wrinkles on the chin for the lip pout, or on the cheeks for the open mouth. The teeth also have a slight shine to them to really sell the realism. Speaking of realism, this Bruce Wayne head sculpt is out of this world. The likeness of Christian Bale is absolutely there, with that sharp, tad crooked nose, slightly sunken cheeks, wide cheekbones, and even the slight wrinkles around the eyes. And it's topped off with a paint application that makes the skin texture look very lifelike. The wavy, parted hair is also sculpted and painted terrifically, and definitely up to par with Hot Toys quality. Now, as you can tell, the head sculpt is fixed to the neck, so there are some restrictions to its articulation. And if you want to peg it into the body, you first have to remove the separate armored neck peg, slip this neck piece onto the neck, then finally peg it into the body. The neck piece is sculpted almost identically to the armored neck peg to provide a screen-accurate transition from the suit to the Bruce Wayne head sculpt. Before we dive into this figure's suit, I do want to make a note that although this figure is marketed as being from The Dark Knight Rises specifically, I haven't found much difference from the suit in The Dark Knight. So I'll be using images from both movies to illustrate screen accuracy. And speaking of which, I must say, the screen accuracy of this figure's suit is nothing short of incredible. The proportions, design, details, even the materials used look like they were ripped straight out of the film. The figure's undersuit is a soft, meshy fabric that covers the entire body, Then on top of that are all the different armor pieces, which vary in material, from hard plastic to hard rubber to soft rubber. There are also bits of semi-translucent rubber that reveal a carbon fiber weave underneath. All these different materials give the figure a mixed media vibe, and I think that's perfect for 6-scale representation of this Batsuit. And overall, the suit is painted black, but the different materials provide slightly different shades to subtly break up the monotony. Moving on to the more specific areas, the armored neck peg is nicely detailed, with that bit of mesh under the chin and that tiered ring design going down the neck. It looks a tad bit long, especially if you tilt the head up, but tilted down it's no problem at all, and the added range of motion is very welcome. The upper torso looks very imposing, with that wide armored chest plate and the hard plastic bat symbol that's debossed in the center. The shoulder pads are made of hard rubber and are attached to the chest with small elastic garters, allowing for a bit more arm articulation. All the sculpted details are screen accurate, although they do seem a bit too wide and too long. I don't think it's a deal breaker though, and at least he's not wearing hockey pads. The arms have the most amount of exposed undersuit and have those fiber weave straps around the biceps, while the forearms are covered by hard rubber gauntlets. And yes, those gauntlet spikes are really pointy, so please be mindful of your hands and fingers. There is a small issue of the elbow pad being attached to the gauntlet and sticking out when you bend the elbow. Looking at it from the front hides it, but from the side it becomes rather obvious. The most impressive part of the suit, in my humble opinion, is the figure's midsection, which Hot Toys was able to translate from the screen to the figure almost perfectly. It's mostly made out of soft rubber and really captures that segmented/separated look on the front and sides that's akin to a real human abdomen. Unlike a human abdomen though, the right panels on my figure jut out a bit due to the nature of the rubber material, but I think that's a small price to pay for near perfect screen accuracy. A bigger issue though is that it severely restricts torso articulation, and that is something I wish Hot Toys could have improved. Around the waist is the belt that provides the only splash of color in the whole suit, in a deep gold with a matte finish. Little details like the buckle and the belt segments are sculpted very well, and so are the extra bits around the belt, like the various small canisters and pouches. There's even a hook in the back of the belt, which you can place the grapnel gun on, and although it's rather loose, sitting it close to the trigger makes it fit a bit more snugly. The belt itself is another thing that fits very loosely, but that does also mean you can adjust it easily as well. Below the waist, the leg armor is also done fantastically and is quite the work of art. The shape and details of each individual panel going around the thighs only have minor inaccuracies to the screen version, and even the amount of space in between each panel is mostly accurate. One egregious inaccuracy though is that there's not enough space separating the crotch and inner thigh panels, so they collide when moving the legs forward. And to make things worse, just like the midsection, the panels are also made of soft rubber and also restrict the articulation of the legs. And lastly, the knee pads, much like the leg armor, are made of soft rubber and only slightly differ from how they looked in the movie. Moving down to the boots, the front and back are made of hard rubber, while the sides are actually made of hard plastic and are just sculpted to look like this weaved pattern, which does look convincing. It's also a split-cut boot design, and the shoe itself has tons of awesome detail all around, especially on the midsole, the heel, and the tread on the bottom. Now for the last bits of the suit, we have the cape and the back. Underneath the cape is that bulky upper back area made of hard plastic, and a rubber spine-looking piece of armor going down the lower back. The cape was a bit disappointing for me, at least in terms of how it feels, because I was expecting a fabric that feels really soft and premium, and unfortunately the cape doesn't quite meet that. However, that is mostly personal preference, and it still gets the job done, as it's soft enough and lightweight enough to achieve a good draped look. It does also seem to be wider and longer than in the film, which I actually like, but again, more of a personal preference. The cape comes packaged separate from the body, by the way, and you'll have to insert it into the traps area, which does cause the insertion areas of the cape to bunch up a tad bit such that it doesn't sit as flat as in the movie. And in order to insert the cape into the figure, you just need to follow the instruction manual that it comes with. Speaking of which, let's now go over all the accessories that this figure comes with. The figure comes with the 2 extra head sculpts, 4 faceplates, and neck cover that we already covered, as well as an instruction manual, a diorama display base, EMP gun, sticky bomb gun, grapnel gun, 3 batarangs, 2 mini mines, and 3 pairs of hands. The instruction manual contains a lot of important information regarding battery slots, figure assembly, transformation, and more, so please be sure to read the manual. The diorama display base is an incredible piece that really sets the scene of the final battle with Bane in the movie. The paint app and sculpt work add a ton of realism through the surface textures and details like bullet holes, the cracked corner, and the subtle bat symbol stamped into the concrete. The base is mostly made of plastic, but the step with the bat symbol is actually made of soft rubber. The one downside to this display base though are the snow details, if you can even call it that, because the lack of quality sculpting and painting makes it look like someone just accidentally spilled white paint on the steps and tried to cover it up. The EMP gun has similar problems because although it's sculpted and detailed well enough, it's just painted one solid black color with no weathering whatsoever, which makes it look very toyetic and like a cheap hunk of plastic. It does have LED lights though, with the battery slot being on the side of the gun and much easier to insert batteries into. The switch is on the bottom of the barrel, and while not very bright, it may be sufficient enough for some photos. The sticky bomb gun also suffers a bit from the same paint problem, but it is brought to life a little more thanks to the painted screws, gold cylinder, and red light that break up the solid black paint coat. It is also transformable, though quite flimsy too, so be sure to consult the manual for full instructions. The grapnel gun is definitely the best looking of the 3 types of guns in regards to the paint and sculpt. It's painted a shade of gold lighter than the belt, with accents of black on the top and bottom of the barrel. It has nice details all over, but especially on the side of the frame, and the grip has awesome sculpt work that gives it a textured look. The batarangs are all identical, they're painted the same shade and finish as the belt, and are made out of plastic. The mini mines are also made of plastic, and I do think they could have been painted better, especially the tiny rod sticking out. But at the same time, these are very small accessories, and I understand that it's very difficult to paint them. Lastly, the hands come in a pair of fists, a pair of gun holding hands, one pinching/grabbing hand, and one open palm hand. All of them have a ton of sculpted detail to really capture the look of tactical ballistic gloves, especially at the knuckles, tips of the glove, and the overall texture. To finish up this review, let's go over the rather limited articulation of this figure. An important note is that the instruction manual actually has a section on the articulation of the figure, and since this is what Hot Toys themselves provides, I won't be going over these movements, so you can pause to read it here. What I will do though is go over the articulation that the manual does not cover. So starting with the head, it actually has a magnetic attachment, which is awesome because it gives you full range of motion. And the separate neck peg can slightly tilt forward, backward, and side to side. The arms can swing both forward and backward around 30 degrees, and there is a small amount of bicep swivel. The torso can only barely crunch forward and extend backward. And lastly, the split cut boots make me very happy because it allows for full range of motion. This figure was my first ever DX figure from Hot Toys, so I had some pretty high expectations. And while there are some things that I'm disappointed by, like the LED head sculpt, the cape, a few of the accessories, and the lack of great articulation, I can still honestly say that I'm really happy I got this figure. Overall, the Batsuit from the film is almost entirely translated onto this figure with only minor inaccuracies. And that's what I think is this figure's greatest strength, its incredible screen accuracy. And because of that, it has a great shelf presence, especially because all I really need is for this figure to stand on that awesome diorama display base and look cool and intimidating, just like in the movie. And if that's what you're looking for out of this figure, I think you'll be happy with it too. Thank you so much for watching. Feel free to like and subscribe if you found this review helpful, and I'll see you in the next video.